JetBlue has a crazy promotion. We get latest on Chase's rules following the Sapphire launch last week. The Savannah Bananas, Hawaiian, Alaska, Amex, it all ended early, or did it? All of that coming up right now on MTM Travel.
It depends on how you read the rules, Shawn.
Well, I read the rules appropriately, Mark, and I did make a transfer on the 29th of 500,000 Amex membership rewards to Hawaiian, then to Alaska. Last year I did that 20% bonus. Wish I had done more then, and eventually I kind of had to do some math, and this is probably the biggest speculative transfer I've ever made.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were in this boat that they made a very large transfer just, because it's so much easier to earn Amex membership rewards than it is to earn Alaska miles normally. Bilt's made that slightly more available or accessible, but it's still hard to earn Bilt points. And so you have all that, and then you want to take advantage of their transfer bonuses. So I could see why people went a little bit large here. Of course, the other side of the coin is everybody's like, oh, how long until they devalue? It's probably going to be soon. And they when they made the agreement and they got the approval, they said we weren't going to devalue things, but the way it was worded was a little bit weird. It was like, we won't devalue Hawaiian miles, and I don't. So I'm sure there's something in the next few months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is, that people will be like, see, I told you it was coming. Well, it's coming to every program all the time.
Yeah, and Alaska has definitely not been immune to devaluations over the years. So many of them sudden. So it's not a bad sort of argument to make. For me, I looked at what I did last year. I kind of got myself up to 420,000. I've spent about 150,000, so not a ton in the last year, but there's the options: Europe Direct on Condor, and obviously Asia, Japan Airlines, American Airlines domestically. I've used them for where you get those cheap 7,500 point redemptions. So I thought, kind of being strategic, given my balance, I still have well over 1 million membership rewards, and that's after I just cashed out quite a few. So I feel like I still have enough there. This will load me up for a little while, and yeah. So I think that it was tough though. 500,000 without a direct need. Yeah, I guess now I got to go spend them.
Yeah, now you're going to just start every search with Alaska to see if it makes sense. But yeah, I didn't go as hard because I was worried about them closing down some things or increasing rates on things, and also there's still the Bank of America cards. If you can get a Barclays card, you can still get a Hawaiian card for at least a couple more months. So there's still some options there, and then we have a decent amount of Bilt points. So I didn't go as hard. I'll probably regret it. It is what it is. But a lot of people did, and we noticed this in the Travel on Points Facebook group, assume that it was going through the 30th. And that's the way Amex runs a lot of their stuff. Like if there's a transfer bonus that says till June 30th, it usually means it ends the evening of the 30th. Now they, we're a little bit more firm on those terms. I think it said like effective June 30th, you will no longer be able to transfer. So they shut it down on the 29th, the evening of the 29th. Some people, I think, were waiting until last minute or wanted, or, slept on it and woke up and said, I should do more or whatever. And were met with no more Hawaiian in their accounts. So, always do it a few days before anything ends just to be safe.
Yeah, it's always a good sign when it says an end date that you do it before that end date. And procrastination is never your friend in this hobby. Obviously, a lot of the Amex end of quarter, end of half year, end of month credits, you can't do it the last day because it may not credit in the right time. It causes a huge issue. So getting stuff done a little bit ahead of time is always good. I waited till the 29th. I waited till the last minute. I had got news, there were rumors, people discussing that it might end early. And that was enough to sort of get me there because I had the feeling that waking up on the 30th, it was all going to be gone. And I'm interested to hear from people out there how much they spent or how much they transferred over to Hawaiian/Alaska. I know a few people, 1 million plus. Now, 1 million points is the most, or 999,000, the most you could do on one transaction for that $99 fee. So that's your maximum value, I guess, if you're offsetting the $99 fee. But I'd love to hear what's the biggest transfer you've heard of?
I haven't really been paying too much attention, so 500,000 was the biggest until now.
Well, yeah, that person who did 1 million is the one who convinced me. I was going to go 400, and then I threw an extra 100 on top. Funny how that happens. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about on this show. But let's start with the Savannah Bananas. I want to hear all about this. You've talked about how you ended up getting what, free tickets because they messed up the drawing, and it was a good weekend.
Yeah, I ended up going. I had gotten both of us had gotten tickets, my wife and then I, because we had both signed up under our emails to get into the drawing, and they ended up sending out emails to like you're in to 40,000 people instead of 4,000 people or something along those lines. So they gave anybody, access to an allotment of free tickets at each stadium that they went to, not in Savannah, but when they're doing the tour. I mean, they've done some football stadiums, they did a lot of baseball stadiums, so I originally picked Nashville for our family to go to, and then I also booked Cincinnati because my sister lives just north of there, and I was like, oh, they'll go there. But the Nashville stuff fell through, so another friend that lives there used those tickets, and we did these, and it was a good experience. And they're like impossible to get a lot of times, so we're kind of lucky there. To get them for free is even more insane. It's kind of kitschy like the Globetrotters were, but way more streamlined, way more entertaining, way better product out there. It was packed, and they have figured out the problem with live sports. People don't like the commercials. They don't like being kind of boring in between, bored between. They look at their phone, doing other things. Like everybody was locked in the entire time because they don't give you like a moment of silence or just to like sit there. And they actually ruined one kind of unique thing that started to happen because they were like, okay, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. They were playing a song and they play music the entire time. It like basically never stops. Sometimes the players will be doing like skits with it when others are warming up to keep you entertained there, and they'll put it up on the video screen and everything. Like they'll have a dance that they do, things like that. And then the song had ended. It was a Blink 182 song, and the entire stadium was still singing it. And if they would have let that go for like 30 seconds, it would have been really cool. But they're like, and on to the Bat Boy that's dressed up like Batman, and like
Hey, you got
all
to
this
stay with the
stuff.
show, right? I mean, you got to
Yeah.
plan, you got to stick with it. It looks really cool. I had saw an interview in the last couple of weeks with the guy who runs it, and I think they're expanding up to 16. I didn't know that there was more than just two teams, but they're expanding up to six teams, I believe, and they're kind of trying to create a new league
Yeah.
around this version of baseball, which, as you say, I guess the largest comparison would be the Harlem Globetrotters, but it's its own thing, and it's selling out huge stadiums, becoming this phenomenon. And now that they're going to have more teams, it seems like they'll be able to travel more often. I wonder, as a sports fan, do you think that this ever catches on as more of a serious sort of thing?
I don't think it'll ever be serious, but I think that they'll be able to. They could go into like every city and sell out for a couple weeks. I think the demand is there, and while we were in Cincinnati, the Party Animals, which is another team, and then one other teams was playing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So they don't have the Savannah Bananas name sake, and I'm sure that helps, even though I'm sure the players kind of go all between the teams or whatever. I don't know how all that works, and the scoring's different. All the stuff. The game starts with a 2 hour clock, and at the end of 2 hours, they pretty much wrapped it up like right on time, which is impressive when you think about it. Who knows, like how much of this is all right? Put it right here, and I'll try to hit it there, and how much of it's choreographed in that respect. But they were, good athletes. They hit the ball, a couple home runs, all that stuff. That we had diving catches. They would even wait for the ball to come, and then they would catch it behind their back like a pop up, which I find super impressive. That I don't even know if like all the people in the MLB could do that. And one guy would like jump up to catch a fly ball in the outfield, and then he would land a backflip while in motion of catching it. They did some impressive stuff, like you'd see with the Globetrotters, where they would throw it from half court and make it like every time almost, which is insane. So they mixed all that stuff in there. I would say the pitching, they don't show you like the speed of the pitch or anything. So I'm guessing it's kind of like batting practice, maybe a little bit better. And they have like weird rules that I'm not even entirely sure of. Like if you get thrown out stealing or something, one guy had to go sit out in the outfield until it was his turn to bat again. He was just like sitting in the grassy area above the wall. If a player gets walked, everybody on the field has to touch the ball before it ends or whatever, and they can go. So if you have a person on second and you walk a batter, then that person from second can keep running until everybody touches the ball. So the outfield has to run in, everybody touches the ball. So that makes it a little bit more interesting. Scoring's different. Like it doesn't matter how many runs you score. It's just whoever has more runs at the end of the inning gets 1 point. And then in the final inning, every run counts as a point. So it kind of like leaves it where it will always be somewhat close. and then you have a chance in the end of the game.
Sounds like fun, very Americana, very what I guess the sort of country is for entertainment. And it's interesting to see something new. And yeah, it's probably coming to a city near you, but traveling for it and then maybe sign up for their. We should talk about that. They do have these waiting lists, and it's not always easy to get tickets in every place that you go. And maybe they'll make a mistake like they did with Mark, and then you can get free tickets or something like that. That would be certainly nice. But yeah, you have to sign up ahead of time, and I'm sure the resale tickets are pretty expensive.
Yeah, I didn't even look at resale, but I would imagine it was insane. Yeah, that's what the demand. Like they've never been to Detroit. They went to Grand Rapids, and I'm guessing if they had Savannah Bananas and the Detroit Tigers were cool with it, they would do the Comerica Park. But I think they went to Clemson in the football stadium. They had like 80,000 people in that, and it was full. So they definitely have something brewing. I mean, you don't want to expand it so much that there's no demand or it gets lowered. But I'd love to see it in like the ballpark that they in Savannah that it's based off of, and so I'm sure it's a little bit more unique there. It's also fun if they hit a pop up a fly ball that goes foul and somebody catches it, that's considered an out. Oh, that's why the guy had to run in the outfield. He was on Savannah Bananas, somebody caught it, and he had to go sit in the outfield until it was his next time at bat, I guess.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about jet lag. I've made that a comment on here, but also just the way we broke up our trip, Resorts World, New York City, the Hyatt, to talk about that. But we had to fly back. We left Greece in the afternoon, arrived in New York City late at night, went to sleep at the Resorts World, New York City around 3, 4 a.m. Greece time, slept 5 or 6 hours, then got on a plane 8 a.m. Eastern pretty early coming home. And yeah, I've been struggling with jet lag for a couple of years. And it turns out that breaking the trip up exactly like this, going to the hotel for a few hours and sleeping, then coming home, not only what did it make the trip, I guess, more enjoyable. Now I was kind of not looking forward to it, right? It just sometimes you just want to get home. You don't want to have to go, especially an airport like JFK, which is not the easiest airport. There's not a hotel right there.
Terrible.
You're talking about the TWA hotel. But anyway, the side result is no jet lag. I got home. I was easily adjusted, started going to bed a little bit early, 8, 9 p.m., waking up at 4, 5 a.m., and then things got a little bit more normal, but it was like miraculous to break it up in that way. And I'm starting to think that maybe that is the future. I know I'm sounding kind of old there, but what do you think? Get home right away? Because you think about we're on a 10-hour flight from Greece and then another 5-hour flight home.
Well, you're bearing the lead here that you were not in a bed on the flight to Greece.
Yeah, well, yes, it was economy, right? So there's a whole different thing when you're in business class. And I was glad to make my daughter fly economy. We hadn't flown in economy long haul since 2021, so
oh, how douchey does that? How douchey does that sound? I'm glad I finally made her sit in the back with the peasants. No, I think it's good for them to get a taste of that, to know that they can do it, and because even us, like as adults, we've flown long haul economy before. But then you get used to business and you're like, man, I don't even want to go back there for like a 5-hour flight and stuff. So you get a little spoiled. So it's good to get a taste of that every once in a while. But you're telling me you wouldn't be less jet lagged or the same amount of jet lagged if you had a flight from Greece all the way into Vegas in business?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't sleep very well on planes, so it's never like I get a full night's sleep even in business class. But flying straight home to Vegas, the time zones would have been messed up. I would have pushed past basically stopping in New York. I was able to go to sleep like as if I had stayed up late that night, and I was able to fall asleep. We all fell asleep right away. So I mean, I don't know. I had never really thought of it that way, but for some reason, no jet lag coming back compared to previous trips. And I mean, it was brutal. Let's flying the way that normal people fly.
Boy. I find that I'm more jet lag going one way versus the other. I don't know if you are. Like if I'm coming from west and going east, I don't feel as bad as if I, am out east coming back west. And like Europe kills me more than Asia did, going not so much East Coast, but if I'm going, a few hours that way, like if I'm going to Iceland, I'm way more messed up coming back than I'm coming back from California and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
I think I tend to suffer more going east, but I mean, it was never really a problem for me until the last couple of years. My last couple of trips to Europe coming back, I did struggle. And then, like I said, this one I didn't. And I can only attribute to the fact that we broke it up and slept in the middle of it. But our last long haul flight was from Paris to Detroit back in 2021, I think, when we had the meetup there. and that was about 8 hours or something. And I think that that's not terrible. About 8 hours into our 10.5 hour flight from Athens to New York, I was ready to get off, but I was good for about the first 8 hours. But after that, it was pretty rough. And then I'm so happy we had the hotel, because when we landed, there was nothing I wanted to do other than just to go to sleep. I did not to go sit and coach on American Airlines for 5 more hours and then land in the middle of the night in Vegas. That would have been rough. I think that would have messed me up. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I think inadvertently we sort of backed into a better plan if you have the time to break up things that way.
Yeah, and that's what we did on the way down to Nassau when we went down there for spring break. We stopped and overnighted in Charlotte, and I really like that too, because you get into Nassau. If we would have had like a full in, we get in at like 10 p.m. One, you're paying a higher room rate to stay there and not taking advantage. Then you get in there all exhausted. You don't get as good of a sleep. You want to get up early because you want to get out there and see everything, because you felt like you paid for a full day. Where we got into Charlotte at like 7 p.m., went to dinner, got to bed at a normal time, got up a little bit early, and still got to the hotel by like 10 a.m. So it worked out really well that way. So I think it makes sense if you're going to have to either fly throughout the middle of the night after a connection or spend the night. I would spend the night.
So I do want to talk about the Hyatt Regency at Resorts World JFK. This is advertised as a JFK airport. It's actually about 4 miles away from JFK. And as we all know, there's no great options for JFK on-site airports other than the TWA Hotel, which was $700 the night I was visiting. So that's a non-starter there. Although the Resorts World, the Hyatt, was well over $400 for the night. And it's a category 4. It was priced at peak, so 18,000 points. I'm fresh out of Cat 1 through 4 certs, but would have been a great use of one of those. And so there's kind of this thing that sucks about JFK. So they have a shuttle to the
Just
casino.
one thing?
Okay, yeah. But getting to the hotels, right? So they have the shuttle from Jamaica Station over there. So you could take the air train, pay to exit, and get a once hourly shuttle or something. That sounds stupid. And then an Uber from the airport. In order to get to the Uber, you have to take a shuttle to another lot to get an Uber to the hotel, and that's about $30. But then I read that the Lefferts station, that's where like a lot of the long-term parking is, and it's a free air train stop, meaning that you don't have to pay to get on and off there. If you take the air train there and then just take an Uber from there, it was only like $10 to the hotel. And I don't think it took any longer because you already have to take other shuttles and stuff like that. So it's not the easiest airport hotel, but a $10 Uber ride, a quick air train ride, I thought that was perfectly fine. And yeah, I mean, the hotel is very interesting. We talk a lot about Resorts World Las Vegas on our Las Vegas show and how it's sort of a generic Hilton. This is pretty generic Hyatt. It's pretty nice. It's very nice, I'd say, for a Hyatt Regency, but it's as generic a hotel as you get.
That doesn't surprise me too much, and that maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know, but how was the? Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk on the Vegas show more about the casino and stuff. But was it a place that you would want to stay again, or if you weren't flying out of JFK to partake in that, or was it kind of like whatever?
Yeah, it's interesting. We are going to talk on the Vegas show because they just announced their overall plans for the $6 billion renovation. This is at the old Aqueduct horse track, and I think that's how they got their casino license, and then they want to redevelop it as one of the projects there. And they had models kind of showing that. It's interesting because it's like many casinos outside Vegas. The casino has guarded entry where you have to show your ID right at the beginning to go in. When we got there, I went to sleep, so I didn't really go into the casino. I tried to the next morning, and the casino closed from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. for some reason. And we were trying to go in there at like 6 a.m. right before we went to the airport just to kind of walk around the casino. So I did get to see like the atrium area and kind of look into the casino. The security guards were not letting me point a camera in there at all. And they were right at the entrance. There was nothing I could do there. But the kind of quirkiest thing, and so we did get a suite upgrade. They had standard suites available. They proactively upgraded me to a suite as a globalist. And they have a Regency Club there, one of the rare Regency clubs in the United States. And breakfast started at 6:30 a.m. We had to leave the hotel early. But what's interesting is the Regency Club first off, it has sodas on tap, Mark. So for people who love fountain drinks like me, that was really nice. But it was open all night. The key worked in the middle of the night to get it, or late at night when we got there, and then early in the morning was able to do it. But breakfast didn't start till 6:30. So I went in at like 5:30 or something like that to get a coffee. And the lady was already stocking up stuff. There was already fruit and packaged stuff, and there was already stuff out there. And she just like gave me this dirty look when I went in there, but didn't say anything to me. So I got my drink, all that, I left. And by the way, there's signs everywhere, no outside food or drink. They must have a problem with people going to the Regency Club, bringing it to the casino or something like that. They have all these signs says you can't bring drinks out. So anyway, I drank my drink right there, left, came back with the family around like 6:10 because we had to leave for the airport. And this lady stares at us again. She says, "We don't open till 6:30." And I said, "Well, the door is open." I said, "The stuff is out here. We're gonna get drinks." And she was just so rude, and she just walked away and never came back, thankfully. And then obviously other employees started looking, and nobody decided to bother us. And then after like 5 minutes, I got a little brave, and I grabbed Ellie like a packaged Danish or something. I was like,
I'm taking this out.
I was spiteful.
Yeah. I mean, that is weird that it wouldn't lock or whatever. Cause we were just at the Grand Hyatt in Mexico, and that one, like, it was only open certain hours, and it wasn't open for breakfast because they did breakfast somewhere else. So it was like, if it was up the wrong time, it would not open the door. It would be locked and everything. So I'm just surprised they wouldn't set it up that way if they were that upset about it.
Yeah, I've been in many Hyatts and other hotels where it is time coded, but it wasn't here. And just the way that she looked at me the first time, and then she finally, the second time when I brought my family back, decided to say something. But we won in the end and got our got our stuff. And they started actually bringing out the hot stuff before we even left. And I didn't push it. I didn't go and get the hot stuff, even though it was there. But you know, this talks about service, right? And the service at the hotel is fine. But a lot of places, when they know you're leaving early for a flight, especially airport hotels, they'll bag you something, or they'll make sure you get something, or they'll want that. And this lady was just very New York, and she was just like, "No, it's not 6:30," all that sort of stuff. But I really like the hotel. Like I said, it's sort of generic new Hyatt Regency, but yeah, I really like the room. Now, would I stay there for anything other than JFK? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's the easiest to get most places from there, unless you have a car. So I don't know if it's great for like visiting New York City, but I think it worked out good for a JFK layover. And I think that the $10 Uber either way worked out okay. Getting to the air train was fast. So that if it was a $30 Uber, I don't know why. Like maybe it's just the cheap side. That would have bothered me a lot more than it otherwise. And if you have a certificate, it's a good use of one for sure.
Yeah, it's got to be like airport taxes and fees or something. But I mean, Uber in New York is just insane these days, and how expensive it is. And last couple times I went there, it was like $100 to get to the hotel, or over $100 when you used to fly into LaGuardia when Uber was newer, and it would take you like 25 bucks to get into Manhattan. So I don't know, prices increase plus tolls and everything else they're charging all around New York these days, but it's pretty terrible. And it just kind of ruins the experience when you first get there and you're annoyed. And $30 for 4 miles is insane.
Yeah, well, it's 1.5. Yeah, $40 from the $30 from the airport for 4 miles. Yeah, and still $10 for 1.5 miles. But I guess you have a minimum thing there, and I don't know if you get charged a surcharge because you are at the air train station. Anyway, the Ubers are dropping people off at that station. That all worked really good, and finally, I had wanted to stay at this hotel just because of the quirkiness of the casino and stuff for a long time. Obviously, never went out of my way for it, but glad that we finally got to experience it, even if we didn't get to see much of the casino there. And it'll be interesting to see with that project how that redevelops, if they can turn this into a $6 billion casino project. I think they're giving 3 licenses, long-term licenses. I would expect Resorts World will get one of them just because they already have an open property since 2011, by the way. And because, yeah, it's a good location there by JFK, good for if people want to come in and gamble and be close to the airport and stuff like that. But for our Hyatt purposes, yeah, I mean, it's a Hyatt. So a couple of other things. Last show, we talked a lot about Chase, Sapphire Reserve. In fact, the whole show did that. And shout out to everybody who watched, asked comments, asked questions and stuff like that. But there are some updates. You have some data points on how it's being enforced, how all these new rules are working.
Yeah, so the first thing we didn't really know was 524 still in locked in or not, and we kind of figured it would be, and it is for most things. But some people have, for the Sapphire for Reserve for Business, have been able to get it at like 524, 624, 724. I've seen several data points of that, and so I think on the last show we had said we had one originally, but if it's only one, you always wonder if they messed up. But we have enough that, at least for that, they've loosened it a bit. I haven't heard of anybody that's like, 2024 getting it approved for it or anything like that. But it doesn't surprise me much that they would loosen it up a bit, make sure they can get as many people in there as possible. The other good news on the business side is Chase had been really clamping down. If you have 3 business cards with them, they weren't giving you a fourth for most people, definitely not a fifth. But with the Sapphire Reserve for Business, a lot of people are getting it as the fourth, fifth, and I think even sixth card. So there is possibilities there. And then everything else that we discussed, we're like, these are the rules, but it says may not. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. Most people are running up against it where they aren't getting it if they've held the same card before, or they're not getting it if they hold one of the Sapphire Preferred but sign up for the Reserve, those type of things. So the rules are in place for most, but not all. So there have been reports of people, shutting down a Sapphire Preferred 3 months ago, but it's been like 5 years and they still get approved for it and stuff. So if you're willing to risk it, go for it. You'll probably get the pop-up. But if you are eligible otherwise, you might as well give it a try and see what happens. And then did you see this? That some people got the pop-up, said, no, I don't want to continue. And it messed up where it still issued them the card. And then Chase came back and said, okay, we'll give you the sign-up bonus. I was like, that's the perfect way it could work out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bank error in your favor, like quite literally. So that's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, it's good to know that there was some data points of people who recently downgraded, like you talked about, and then being able to get the card. I think your point is good. The pop-up is a good thing, and it allows you to kind of, I don't know, pursue it to a certain point and then hope that maybe there's a glitch and they give you the card anyway. But yeah, as far as the business card goes, this is what banks do. Chase is a huge bank, right? One of the biggest in the world. And they have made this huge marketing push to relaunch Sapphire. No doubt you've seen it everywhere, right? Not just
Yeah.
sites like us and where we're covering it, but all the mainstream, there's advertising everywhere. And with that, you have this new business card. And so they want to sign up a lot of people. They want to show Wall Street that they get a certain number of signups. That's why we tend to get looser guidelines early on with some of these big card launches, especially when they are blockbuster style launches, because they need to go show the numbers like, hey, this was successful in a certain way. And then they sort of figure out the demographics of who's signing up and they tighten things. And especially with Chase Business anyway, they're pretty strict about approvals. So if you're kind of within their ecosystem, I could definitely see them allowing you to have an extra card or pushing aside 524 a little bit if they think that you're within the demographic, because they definitely want to show big signups for this.
Yeah, that's where like the details we don't have of the people that are getting around the rules the way they're written is like how much do they have on deposit with Chase? Are they a preferred client or private client or whatever? Or, do they spend a lot of money on their cards? Like we don't know what the triggers are. I'm sure we'll never know exactly because people don't want to share that kind of stuff. But I'm sure there's some algorithm out there that's like this person spends enough or has enough on deposit with us to make it worthwhile for us to do it. So you just shoot your shot. And I will say some people aren't getting the pop-up that should, and then they're just getting an automatic denial. So there is a chance that you will get a hard pull. I don't care about hard pulls really. I know you don't either. So that's something to consider if you're going this like, I shouldn't be able to be approved for this, but I'll give it a try. Hope for the pop-up. Then it's not a hard pull. You might still get hit with one. So they're a little bit wonky on their rollout of this pop-up.
Yeah, people have this unnatural fear of hard credit pools. Now, I think it's a great strategy to avoid them whenever possible. So not going out and, like
Yeah.
when you go apply for a car loan at a dealership and they'll run, I hope that nobody's doing this that watches this show, but they'll run your credit across, multiple different banks at once. So you're getting hit 5 times. Now that's supposed to kind of consolidate down into one inquiry anyway. The point is, I understand not being willy-nilly with your credit inquiries. And if you have, 20 credit inquiries in a short period of time, it is going to ding your score. But as long as you're diligent in that way, if it accidentally happens or if it happens in pursuit of what you're trying to do, yeah, it's absolutely not something to sweat. And the point ding will come back in short order. And as long as you don't have, a really low credit, like if you're at 780 and you get an inquiry, oh, big boy, you're still going to be fine. Big boy, big deal. You're still going to be fine.
You want a
Poor
Slim
big
Jim
boy.
sandwich? Elias Brothers? No.
You're going to be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple caveats there. Like if you are going for a city premiere, because they're all they care about is hard pulls, like so many in the last 6 months, things like that. You want to be strategic if that is in your plan in the near future. But for most places, or like a Capital One, they get a little bit obsessive about hard pulls. But if you aren't going to be applying for those anytime soon, shoot your shot, see what happens. I mean, if you're under 524, give it a go, but you don't know until you know, right?
Absolutely. And you have an article, we can put a link in the description that has all the data points and what people are sharing with these cards and the rules. And we'll keep you guys informed. Definitely a popular launch. But I wanted to talk about this JetBlue promo, or you brought it up for the show, actually. But it's crazy. This is earned 25 years of status. So let's back up. If you visit JetBlue destinations 15, 20, or 25, you can earn a crazy number of points and then up to 25 years of status. The destination counts as the airport you arrive at, not the airport you depart, but a connecting flight would be a destination. So if you had a connection in, let's say you were in Boston, Las Vegas to Los Angeles, and you had a connection in Las Vegas, then Las Vegas and Los Angeles would both be destinations. So tell people what they can win.
15 destinations, you get 150,000 True Blue points. 20 destinations, you get 200,000 more, so 350,000 total. And then if you go to 25 destinations, you get the 25 years of Mosaic. I think that's the least exciting thing of it all. Like, yeah, you get, seats selected, free bags, crap. Like, who cares? I don't care. If you have 350,000 points, you can just book into what you want for a while. So I'm not as excited about that because it's the low tier Mosaic 1 status for 25 years. But I think 20 destinations for 350,000 points, especially because JetBlue points work towards this. Like, if you're booking an award flight, it counts. So I think that's cool. I don't know if you still have some of your Amazon stash left from a couple of years ago, but I've seen reports of people being able to do this with like 90,000 points plus $900 in cash on cash bookings. If you can find a really ratty lineup where you go to like 3 stops, for a $200 flight or something, that's pretty big. Things like that. So I know people are going to deep dive this. I think it's only super useful if you live like around Boston or JFK because their route network sucks so bad, and that's my big problem with JetBlue. Like if I wanted to fly anywhere, I'm going Detroit to Boston, then somewhere. And once you hit Boston once, you can't, it's just a waste. That flight's a waste every single time you do it, which is annoying. So unless you're in one of their like 3 or 4 hub focus / major cities, it's going to be tough. And I know some people will do it just to do it, but I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting. It's one of those things that on the server, it's really good. It's a really great promotion. Smart of them to offer this. And it's interesting that you get to 15 and you're at 150K, but you just have to do 5 more to jump up. So, I mean, I don't know anybody who would want to just do 15K. And by the way, this is through the end of the year. So you have about 6 months or so to do this. And yeah, I agree. It's very interesting if you can find multiple connections, then route through different cities. There's probably smart ways to do this. Obviously, Detroit would be a destination if you flew back there. I don't know. I agree with you. It's Boston, JFK, Fort Lauderdale. There's a lot of flights down there. Los Angeles is their other big hub. And I don't know that I would be doing this just because I don't have it in me to fly that much. But for people who love mileage runs, and that's been a thing in this hobby forever, and I used to do them, but people just enjoy sitting. I don't enjoy sitting on airplanes anymore, and that's really a big deal, but there are people who do it. If you could do this and secure 25 years of status, enough points, like you say, potentially more points than what you're paying. If they're really only paying 90,000 points plus $900, you're coming out way ahead here. And the fact that you can use points for the bookings is cool too. If you already have a stash of points, you can sort of recycle those. It does not work on Blue Basic fares. So if you are paying cash, you can't buy Basic Economy, but the mileage tickets work. So that's cool too.
Yeah, and the nice thing about travel portals and getting that increased rate, which you can still get on legacy Chase cards like Sapphire Reserve, 1.5 cents through the portal, Biz Platinum, which is going down, messing up with all that stuff where you would have to have JetBlue as your selected airline or be flying business the entire time. But if you have JetBlue selected, you should be able to get that at a little over 1.5 cents per point, book them through the portal. Nice thing is you still earn everything you would normally earn. You still get all the perks of your status, and it should count towards this promotion. Where if you book a hotel through the portal, you're not going to earn Elite Night credits or get Elite Night perks and all that stuff normally. So I think that it makes it so you could do it fully on points, even if you don't have JetBlue points if you wanted to. The question is, if you don't live in one of those cities, do you need JetBlue points? I guess you can play the game and hope they get bought up, or there's been merger rumors with them and a whole bunch of airlines. So you hope they expand in the future, all those things, and play the long game. I just don't know if it's worth the effort. It's summertime. I don't want to be on an airplane, Shawn. I want to be at the lake.
Well, they do have more and more international partners. Plus, obviously, they're flying to Europe now. Better Mint product than ever before. In fact, they just we should talk about this. Las Vegas to Orlando they just launched Mint on that route. So I'm kind of excited about that. So that's a good use of my leftover. I have about 200K left over from the 500 or so K I had. So that tells you over the last 6 or 7 years, I burned 300,000 of them. I think
in 5 years from now, he'll be like, my Alaska balance is still at 300.
Wait, but but let me say something. I do go to Orlando a lot. I've flown JetBlue to Orlando a lot, and the fact that they have Mint, that would be something I would burn my miles on. So legitimate. I don't go to JFK, or the one time I flew Mint from Vegas was to Boston. I don't go up there that often, but I am in Orlando a lot. So actually, I mean, of course, that route could last 6 months and they could get rid of it. So it's hard to plan or get rid of Mint on that route, I should say. So I don't know, but I think it's the time. That's what you have to factor in here. It costs a lot of time to do this.
Yeah.
I think that the value's there, right? You can come out ahead, and certainly 25 years of status, if you're somebody that flies JetBlue enough, that's amazing. But how much time you're going to spend, is it worth it for you? Some people, like I said, like I flew down to Paraguay once on a mileage run. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't enjoy it today, but there's a lot of people who do enjoy this. And it's always cool when a promotion comes along that makes sense and works for the right people, just not us. I don't want to sit on an airplane this summer either.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, if you lived in Boston, I think this would be almost fairly easy over 6 months to do like quick weekend trips. If you enjoy that stuff and check out a city for a night and things like that, I would be way more into it if it was like Delta and I could do it out of Detroit with all these little quick flights here and there and check out all these unique destinations that I wouldn't fly into otherwise. I would probably be more intrigued. But if I have to fly to Boston every single time, I'm going to be so tired of that. So yeah, I think it will be popular, but JetBlue's own issues will keep people from being wildly popular. Like if AA or United or Delta did this, that would be a whole different story. I think it would be gangbusters, but I'm guessing that's why JetBlue is doing it.
So let's peer pressure Joe into doing this. He has no excuse. He already loves JetBlue. He loves Mosaic status, and he lives in Boston. So there you go, Joe. BR.
Like, but I have kids.
It's always something.
Do it with the kids. There you go.
Yeah.
Now you got like 350,000 times all the kids.
He's due to be back with us soon, so we'll ask him if he plans to do that. But let us know what you guys think about anything we discussed on the show. What has been your experience with Chase Sapphire? Have you applied for any of the cards in the last week? What are your data points? The Savannah Bananas, Hyatt Regency, JFK. What is your favorite JFK airport hotel? One day I'm going to stay at the TWA hotel, Mark. It's not going to be $700. It'll be like $200 or $300, and then I'll finally get to stay there. But yeah, let us know.
Sounds like everybody that stays there thinks it's not worth it.
Yeah, I have walked around there. Walking around there is free. I highly recommend doing that. But leave a comment on anything we discussed. We do a new show every Monday. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.